So I realised there hasn't been a tips and tricks or guide for some time now, so I thought why not go through a list of certain things that people may overlook or not even know about. So without wasting any more time, let's get into it. So the medic. When you're healing a player, it is best to prompt them to be healed whilst looking at them from an angle. This is primarily due to the fact that equipping your Saber before initiating the animation, you can attack in that general direction, stopping any zombies from interfering with said animation and starting out all over again. We have all used the Bugle, but with the recent nerf or fix, or whatever you want to call it, they've now made it so you just play the majority of the sound effect in order to get the full 20-second buff. However, by not playing the full sound effect, you get a measly 5-second buff. Now, this has its pros and cons, because if you're in a tough situation and you think, oh, I'll just wait a few seconds so I can have the full 20-second buff, you're wrong. Simply equip it, use the 5-second at your disposal, and repeat. I say this because the Bugle has no delay towards the heat bar, meaning if you and another Bugle user alternate, you can simultaneously get a Bugle buff infinitely. Granted, there's enough zombies in it. The Zurus has been added, and still a few people do not know how to combat this armored trait. Well, ain't you all lucky I made this video? We all know how the Cuirassier armor regiment works by now, so put it to the test. If you're the only person on your team who is wearing this armor, stand at the front of the squad as opposed to the far back. This is because any Zapper or Zurus that attacks you will not inflict the slash effect, nor the incapacitated effect, meaning you can defend a horde by yourself whilst others worry about objectives or helping others. It's just more beneficial. Also, to add to this segment, you can safely melee bombers. You'll still negate health, but you won't die, so that's good also. Now, before you go to the comments and mention how I missed out the Saber, the Siege Engineer armor also stops the Zurus Charge and the Saber gash. Okay, are you happy now? Are you happy? Now, surprisingly enough, with the new map of St. Petersburg, there also comes a new Frank method. Now, please bear in mind this is subject to change. However, I found out that from wave 5 onwards, if you do not die and you save up your plunder, you can earn up to 300 Frank in hardcore. I have no idea how much it is in normal because I rarely play normal. Now, there's also been an addition of the Spontoon. Now, something I found useful about this is by having two officers, one with the hold fast ability and the other with the charge ability. By activating the charge first, all teammates with the bayonet, heavy saber, lance and Spontoon will have an insta-kill effect. However, once that effect has worn off, the other officer can activate their Spontoon effect and put everyone in a hold fast state, causing another 20 seconds of insta-kill. Downside is, you can't move. And just quickly before we move on to the next topic, a huge shout out to the sponsor of today's video, Rage Shut. I'm joking. However, something I do want to add on is the lance and the heavy saber. Now, this is only personal preference, but due to the heavy saber not being beneficial whilst within the hold fast square, I highly advise the lance, due to it being useful with both abilities via the officer. Plus, it's been buffed to have an upswing as well now. So something that is rarely covered is the stumble mechanic, meaning if you fall from a certain height, you will more than likely stumble. However, if you fall from a certain distance, you will not stumble. If you jump at that same distance and then reach the floor, you will stumble. I cover this as a tip more than a trick because some players underestimate this mechanic, as if and when you do fall and stumble, you are momentarily immobile for a few seconds, depending on how far you fall. So be wary of your surroundings and don't jump before falling. With the Zurus Charges, more than likely you'll be incapacitated by it if you're not a Cuirassier or wearing engineer armor. However, with this charge, you can do two things. Avoid it by moving to the left or right. Seriously, it's not that hard. Or two, become a priest and use the crucifix, as this is the only utility within the game that can stun the enemy momentarily. Now, as for the exorcism, which only slows and weakens, whilst it does weaken, it does not slow the Zurus during said charge. Therefore, make sure you move or equip the correct utility. Now, something I've seen people get confused about is the limited ammo for the Cuirassier class. Now, let me be clear, you have 10 pellets. Those 10 pellets are for that match and only that match. When you use up those 10, you can no longer have any more for that one match. Now, moving on to the weapons, any singular barreled weapon will only use 1 out of your 10 ammunition. If you're using something like the horse artillery pistol or the double barrel pistol, you can opt to use 2 out of your 10 ammunition, as 1 for each barrel. Now, the air rifle for the infantry class differs in the sense as it's powered via air, making the gun useless when it runs out of air, meaning this Cuirassier mechanic is not implemented with the air rifle. I hate the fact I have to mention this, as I thought it was clear as day, but clearly some people do not understand. So here you go. And for now, that is it. I didn't want to dive too in depth with the changes and fixes you can do. However, I didn't want to just cover a few things and clarify. Anyways, that's all from me. Thank you for watching, and I'll speak to you in the next one. Bye.